So, following the video I made with Bitman 360, Tom Gillespie got in touch with me, who is making the Fakefluencer film about Bitman and his scams. He's wants to put his side out there, respond to some of the comments Bitman made, and he's going to be joining me on this call any minute. So, I honestly don't know what to make of this guy. He could be legit. He might not be. Bitman thinks he's just a bad investor who put his money into a project, didn't understand it, and then got unhappy about it. That's possible, but it seems to me that going to the extent of making an entire film just seems a bit too far. So we'll wait for him to join. Should be interesting. Hopefully we'll find out a bit about this film he's doing, maybe a bit more detail on why he particularly thinks Bitman is worse. Because let's face it, we all know there's a lot of scammers in crypto. So let's just see what happens. I'm just trying to get my machine set up so I'm ready for him when he arrives, because in particular, I kind of want to know more about the film backstory, that why he's being so aggressive about it. And he's joining us now, so let's see what happens. See how this one goes. Tom, you there? Oh. So thanks for coming along, Tom. Obviously,
Dan,
you've seen the video I did with Bitman. You know, obviously I'm quite heavily into the crypto community. You know, thanks for coming back to me. Thanks for offering to come and have a talk about the work you're doing, the movie, and why you feel that the whole Scooter coin is a scam and why it's deserving of having an entire film made about it.
yes, Dan, thanks for the opportunity to respond to your previous interview with Bitman 360. I'm just having a look at your LinkedIn profile at the moment. It says here that you are a decentralized tech specialist. So I actually have a question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
What is that? What is a decentralized tech specialist?
Well, decentralized technology is just technology that has no centralized governing body. So as someone who's involved in crypto and blockchain, I thought you'd probably understand that already, particularly if you've invested in things like Bitcoin in the past, even Scooter coin. Because just to confirm, you are an investor in Scooter coin as well, aren't you? You're not just a follower of it. You are actually an early stage investor.
Well, yes, my brother and his younger son, Eric, they came across Scooter coin some years ago. I think it was actually a year and a half ago, to be precise. And, you know, it looked promising back then. There was a lot of innovation going on in the scootering industry. So the timing was right. And from my previous experience as a international currency trader, I had quite a bit of knowledge around currency trading, and it's not so far removed from cryptocurrency trading. I imagined. Well, turns out I was absolutely wrong, and essentially I helped my brother out to get his little boy on board with Scooter coin. And little boys spend a lot of time on the internet, and they basically, from my perspective, he was hoodwinked by this crypto influencer Bitman 360, who became the target of my investigation because of my personal connection to the project in that regard, and my family being affected directly.
Okay, so when you say, obviously, I'm assuming that a lot of the scam side of it and the history of this is going to come out through the film, and you probably don't want to give too much away. But can you give us any detail on the nature of the scam? Because a lot of people have seen Bitman 360, myself included. We've spoken to him, and it seems legitimate. He's got a solid project. He's got a good end use case. He's got a full stack, so he's got a full hardware base as well for it. What about it makes it a scam?
Well, without giving too much away and spoiling the investigation for your audience, essentially it comes down to peddling fake influence, which is essentially, it's not solely peddled by people such as Bitman 360, although they play an enormous role. The scam itself, which I'm still actually partially investigating, it continues into post-production.
Yeah.
It appears to revolve around pump groups. So there were a lot of investors along with myself and my brother, and I've uncovered a list that's upwards of 4,000 investors globally, which is an enormous amount of money from what I've seen on this spreadsheet. So essentially, he has worked with others from the underworld, probably in Eastern Europe, to artificially mess with the value of the scooter coin itself. And in parallel, he has focused, excuse me, Dan, he has focused on something called the Buttercup device, which, claims to mine and distribute scooter coin in a rewards algorithmy way. I don't fully understand the tech part of it. That's not my job. I usually just front the cash. And essentially what he's done is he's hoodwinked, thousands of people into thinking that a product is coming to market to support scooter chain. And behind the scenes, he was just playing silly buggers, pumping the price of the coin.
Okay.
So this is how far my investigation has come to date. Of course, there's always more to investigate. It seems like a bottomless pit, and Scooter Coin by no means is the only project to play in such ways with their investors. Now, people try to distinguish between speculators and investors, and I saw the interview with Bitman, and he suggested that I was just a shit investor. Yeah. And fair enough. I can admit that I'm not the most patient investor. I usually like quick returns, and I always have done. That's where my successes have lied in the past. But I did have patience for the Buttercup 1 and 2, but when we got to Buttercup 3, I've lost patience now. And his role, was critical in having me lose my patience in that regard, and all my bloody money at the same time.
Yeah. So, this project, from my understanding, it's only been 12, 18 months. That, for a tech project, doesn't seem long at all, particularly to be on a third-gen hardware. Do you not feel that perhaps you've just, you've made an investment that isn't suitable for how you normally would trade, you didn't understand the field you got into, and now you're just bitter about it?
Well, listen, I've been on a journey with this one, Dan. It's been a bloody long journey already. And maybe you're right there to a certain extent. Like I said, I'm not the most patient investor, but I'm learning to be more patient in everything that I do in life, as we all do and grow and develop, try to get better. But it's the methods and the ways in which crypto influencers specifically, and like I said, Bitman is not alone in this space to play pumpermentals or what have you crypto people, decentralized folk like to call it. It's, out here in the real world, the regulatory bodies around various countries and nations on Earth would not they wouldn't go for this. So how crypto influencers are able to get away with it, and they still continue to do that. I've seen Bitman is still making videos, essentially pumping the coin.
Yeah.
And I know there are hidden groups on Telegram where they, collectively pump these coins and then they exit at the same time. Now this shit is just, it needs to stop. And on top of that, hiding all the potential value of a coin behind a technical jargon that most investor folk can't wrap their head around, it's just not on, and it needs to stop, basically. But I understand, I've learned a lot about decentralization, as much as my small head can manage, at least. And I realize, the regulators probably can't get a grasp of this. They can't. It's out of their hands. A bit like the internet. Do you remember back in the 90s when they used to say, well, now the terrorists are in charge because of the bloody internet?
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen. I mean, it kind of happened if you consider the social media companies terrorists, but that's for another conversation.
So do you think then that the problem is less with the Buttercup 3 and the Scooter coin itself, and more with the behaviors around it, how it's operating, how the coin's being managed and the finances behind it being managed?
Yeah, it's an industry-wide problem. Scooter coin basically opened up this, Pandora's box of scammy behavior that I've gone into, which, I wish I hadn't gone down that track, to be honest. But I'm committed now because so many of my fellow Australians, my brother's kid, it's personal now. So I'm going to see it through. And I'm lucky I have the resources to make it happen. But not everybody does, and actually a lot of people don't seem to keep track. Like the type of people that buy these shit coins don't even seem to keep track of their portfolios properly. So it's almost like they're spending other people's money.
Yeah.
A lot of young people, South Koreans, South Americans, are getting involved in these coins and not really understanding the technology or the potential implications of holding them in a tax sense.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk a bit about the movie you're making then, since you're making this documentary about Scooter coin. Is the focus exclusively Scooter coin? Do you cover any other topics on there? Any other issues you've seen in the industry? Because I know you said you've kind of gone down a rabbit hole. Has the topic of the movie changed since you started making it, this documentary?
Well, listen, the Fakefluencer I thought was just such a bloody great name for Bitman, because he peddles fake influence, essentially, much like many of the influencers online. And yes, to a certain extent, it has evolved to capture the influencer economy generally, including all the misinformation that's peddled. So this, what really began as a project looking specifically at Scooter coin and his, Bitman's terrible peddling of fake influence, has actually gone ahead and potentially evolved. I mean, I have a story to tell. I have an investigation that I'm sticking to, but it feels like I've just begun in a sense. And you can look online. There's plenty of examples of people peddling fake influence to bump products or services or what have you. It's not just coins, crypto coins, but crypto coins have this added element of baked in economy, if you like, this economic behavior where an entire fleet of influencers can operate together in a sort of alternative economy. So in that sense, it's a much more powerful, potentially disruptive space as compared to beauty influencers getting paid in the dollar for peddling perfume or what have you. But
So,
yeah.
With it then, so obviously your focus is on Bitman 360. Is that focus more because you have this personal connection, you feel your family was scammed by it, or is it just because you think he is one of the worst examples out there of this sort of person? Is he a particularly bad example of, a fake fluencer, as you call them?
He's the pinnacle. He's the quintessential, basically. And yeah, he's the perfect target. Fair enough, he's a young guy who potentially got involved with some, shady folk. But at the end of the day, he still bears responsibility. He's of age that he can bear responsibility for his actions. And he's also, visually, he allows, to have him as the subject matter for the film allows the film to attract that demographic.
Yeah.
Also, purely because of his visual weirdness and the fact that, he's talking to a bunch of young people, trying to get them to invest in a coin that's related to scootering, which is, fair enough. It's pretty bizarre, but I mean, it's not unheard of to, there are weirder coins out there.
Yeah. So do you view the film as a warning to those people he's targeting then, that it's a way for them or for you to make them aware of the dangers of this sort of thing?
Absolutely. This is a quest, and I'm sharing my quest, my journey with those that need to get access to this information ASAP, basically. Especially the younger crowd, like my brother's son. I mean, he was very young, but there are, on this list, this investor list that I was able to capture on my investigation early on that sent me down that rabbit hole, there are numerous young people who, they're very, very deeply involved in Scooter Coin, financially speaking.
Yeah.
But up here, there seems to be nothing going on. So this kind of like lack of attention, if you like, to details or even understanding of the technology allows such characters as Bitman 360 to continue to get away with this behavior. So yeah, this is a canary in the coal mine kind of movie. And
well, do you think though that justifies your behavior of tracking down his parents and interviewing them? Because I believe you went through that approach as well. Rather than going direct to him, you've gone to his friends, his family. Was that justified?
yeah, listen, I have spoken to his parents as part of the investigation, and I have spoken to a lot of other people as well, not only his parents. And yes, it was justified. I have not been able to get close to him. There was one moment in Sweden where when we were traveling over there, that I managed to get very close. I actually saw him with my own eyes, and I can tell you for a fact that he was wearing a wig. So, it cleans up any misconceptions around him actually having long hair, because it was definitely a bloody wig. Whether or not I should pursue him via his family and friends is not up for debate, to be honest. It's an investigation. Everything, all cards are on the table. Every option, every avenue should be explored. That's just proper investigatory procedures.
But this isn't a criminal investigation, is it? He's not committed any crimes that you know of. He's just done something you don't like.
Well, I'm quite confident that my investigation will uncover crimes, proper, real crimes, and it's only a matter of time. And actually, once again, I do not want to spoil the movie at all for your audience here, but there will be new information revealed upon the premiering of this, the Fakefluencer film. So, not all the facts are out there on Twitter or Instagram or wherever the sharing happens. there is new information that we are withholding until the movie is ready, at which point we will go to the authorities and start the proper legal procedures. But right now, you know, we've got a film to make.
Yeah. So, excuse me. I mean, when I spoke to Bitman 360, he said you hadn't made any direct attempts to talk to him. You hadn't, DM'd him on Twitter or contacted him through his agent at all.
True. That's just not true. My entire production team have been trying to get hold of him on the daily. You know, I regularly tweet at him, Instagram at him, and even I've even gone into the YouTube comments before on his videos, and I've spoke to people that invested in the coin, many people around the world.
Yeah.
And fair enough, not a lot of them are paying attention about their investments in Scooter Coin. And again, that's how he gets away with it. But listen, Dan, the man the kid, he needs to go and get a proper job before he ends up going down, the black market route and ended up peddling drugs, because that's where it all leads.
Yeah. No, interesting interpretation of crypto. I mean, so I suppose I still can't quite get my head around why him, because there's so many. Was that literally the first investment you made into crypto, was Scooter Coin?
I don't like to talk about my investments publicly, but yes, it was. And, arguably I could have done a bit more homework, of course, but that doesn't stop the fact that he still continues to peddle this coin to young people around the world. It's nothing to do with me, essentially. It's more about, fair warning to people of the future that this guy runs around, and there are more like him. He's just an example of many. But listen, I want to know what does make Bitcoin great again mean? Like, I don't get how you can make it is it not great? Did it stop being great?
There are issues around the way it works at the minute and the decentralization aspects of it that need improving. Plus, with the American elections going on, I thought it was a nice little play on that.
So, well, this highlights, just one of the issues with these so-called consensus algorithms.
Yeah.
Bitman spouts similar technical jargon, and, I'm aware that there's over 30 types of Bitcoin alone. What kind of an industry claims decentralization and some sort of utopic vision for the economic future, can't even maintain a single currency? It just boggles my mind.
Yeah. Do you feel then that you maybe don't understand cryptocurrency and blockchain technology?
I don't think anybody understands it, and especially bloody crypto influencers. They pretend that they know what they're talking about, but they don't. I mean, the only people that understand cryptocurrency are the people behind the code, who write the code, and whatever they write is oath, basically. Anybody else who tries to interpret it is just they're playing silly buggers. They're mucking around.
But if you don't understand it, why did you feel it was appropriate to invest in it? Surely that's investing 101. You put your money where your knowledge is. If you understand something, you put money at it. If you don't, then you steer clear.
Yeah, well, listen, I was helping my brother out and his kid. It was a personal matter. So that's all I can say about that. Basically, it was a personal gift, and I trusted that my brother had done his homework, essentially, and it turns out he hadn't. So that's kind of how that unfolded. But listen, that does not stop the fact that there are still crypto influencers out there peddling coins with no inherent value at all. And arguably, Bitcoin is only still around and continues to pump because of the Ponzi activity around the cryptocurrency influencer, gang, basically. I see them all on Twitter. There's a shitload of them. They all just pump in the coins. That's all they do. That's the only thing that's happening there. Where's the application?
That's certainly going to be a controversial opinion among the sort of people I know in crypto. But so before we wrap it up then, let's talk briefly about the film. Just because there might be people watching this who have watched my interview with Bitman as well and think, you know what, I think Tom's right. Maybe they've been stuck in the past. Maybe they don't get it. But they think you're onto something. How can they, because I believe you're doing free tickets for the film as well, something like that?
That's correct, Dan.
Yeah.
There is a premiere, and if you go to the fakefluencer.com/free ticket, you can get a ticket to that premiere. Limited supply, of course. Yeah. And basically, you can come and watch the premiere for free. And then after that, we'll go straight to streaming, Amazon, iTunes, and what have you. But there is a deal, there was a deal. I'm not going to give up on that deal with the 60 Minutes Australia, because that's kind of my dreamboat show. And it's actually partly why I started this investigation. I wanted to do this investigation as a TV show. I've always really respected 60 Minutes Australia. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they have absolute professional interviewers on there. And I know some of the girls from the back office, so I'm going to continue to maintain that goal for the project as well. And we'll see how that unfolds. But apart from that, right now, you can get a ticket, free ticket, and actually you'll come behind the scenes as well. You'll see a little bit of my production blog. I've dripped a little bit of it out there, but there's a much more in-depth behind the scenes vlog. Once you've signed up, you'll see, you'll get access to that. Yeah.
Great. Well, obviously, I think it's fair to say we have differing opinions on a lot of stuff around the field, but, always good to talk to people who are don't always match the same opinion. So thanks for taking the time out to talk to me. Hopefully a few people on here will see this, will get in touch with you. So you're on LinkedIn and you're active on Twitter as well, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah, so can people get in touch with you through that if they want to directly?
Yes, Twitter. I'm most active on Twitter or LinkedIn. Yeah. And for those of you on LinkedIn that keep sending me messages about potential jobs, I'm not interested. On LinkedIn, I noticed there's a way for you to put that you're available for jobs and stuff, but there's not a way to put that you're not available for jobs.
Okay.
So LinkedIn, if you're listening, you should update your platform so that you can tell people to sort off. I'm not looking for work. Anyway, that was a personal message. You can cut that bit out if you want.
And hopefully I'm going to be speaking to Bitman 360 again at some point. So I will, certainly, because what I'd like to do is see the two of you talking to each other. Either a format like this, possibly with someone to make sure it doesn't get too aggressive. But I think it'd be a good thing for you to do, to actually talk direct to him. And obviously for your film, I suspect you'd want that as well. So I'll certainly lean on him to say would be a good idea.
Like I say, we have been trying, but he does not want to speak with us. And part of me, I start to get the inkling that he's not actually in charge of whom he speaks with.
Okay.
If you look at any of his videos, you'll see he's often speaking to someone off camera. Whoever that guy is, I think he is the one that actually pulls the strings behind Scooter Coin. But I mean, not all the evidence is in yet for that.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for your time, mate. And hopefully we'll hear more from you as the film gets closer, and maybe get you and Bitman 360 in a room together to talk it out.
We shall see. Thank you, Dan.
Bye.